This is my senior capstone presentation. It is for an internship at Hōʻike, Kauai Community Media Editing Media. So my name is Joshua Hobbs. I am a four-year student at UH West Oahu. I went to Monacan High School in Richmond, Virginia. My program of study is in the Bachelor of Arts with a concentration in general creative media. So quick little summary. The practicum will be an internship at Hōʻike, which is a public broadcasting station. My thesis is that editing can influence the emotional and the emotions an audience has and what they focus on in a video. And so I want to help producers at Hōʻike know how to use that to influence their videos to have the intended effect. Which is my objective, is to help Hōʻike create engaging content without sacrificing personal value. The significance of this practicum is that it'll help creatives at Hōʻike create content with the intended audience reaction. It'll also help make sure that that important messages have a desired effect. My thesis statement. Editing can be used to help amplify a message a creator has, including emotional influence, focus, and attention. Producers from Hōʻike can benefit from learning and refreshing themselves on these techniques so that they can create more engaging content without sacrificing their ideals. My objective was to help producers at Hōʻike create content that aligns with their intended audience reaction and emotional intent, meaning that because Hōʻike is made for multiple different types of creators, but there are people that want to educate about Hawaiian culture, but also just education in general. There's also those out there who just want to create entertaining content for the sake of entertainment. But even while all of them have different goals, they still want to keep in track of what their audience would perceive. And so I want to make sure what the goal of what they want their audience to feel while watching these videos or pay attention to is still relevant. And the research I looked into was editing techniques, briefly the history of editing, but also the cognitive and psychological effects they have on people. Is it still? Wait, I can use the techniques I've learned in editing to help producers at Hōʻike create content that has an intended audience perception and hopefully further my career. Significance of this practicum and why it's important is, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that everything is still fine.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, we can see the
Okay.
slide.
Okay, just good. So the first important part of this is that it makes sure that the creative intent is understood. The reason why is whenever somebody is creating content, it doesn't matter for a video, writing, game, whatever, there is an intended audience and what they want that audience to focus on. And so my point of being the internship at Hōʻike and helping teach new producers how to edit, we'll use more advanced edit techniques, and also refreshing those who have been there for a while, is not so that I do all the work for them. It's for that they know how to do this themselves, so they learn how they can change their editing styles, know what to focus on in their videos, what to change, how they can both increase the chance of putting out the intended message, but also find a way to even make it better. So it's something that I hope that even after I'm gone from, like, my internship is over and I move on or something else, that the producers already there, the staff already there, will be able to essentially teach the next generation kind of thing. Um, and I can also like make sure that like if a producer already has a video out, like a series, and they now use editing to because it is rare, but Hawaii does have they do showcase events on Kauai. They do have some news, and editing can of course be used to manipulate an audience. And this is on the benefit of it is like, as I said, you want to know how to edit an audience to have the intended emotional resonance with the video you're showing. At the same time, though, when showing something like an event or a reporting the news or showing a public station, no. Well, showing information that an audience will need to know, it is imperative to know how editing can affect the perception of that audience. That way, because even if there's an argument of a producer doesn't want to have a specific audience, they don't have a specific goal in mind for why they're creating the videos, that does not mean that the cognitive effects that editing techniques have on people will not apply. And so knowing what those effects are and how they can affect an audience can in turn help prevent an accidental bias or false narrative. And the first and the future implications is that even if there are no harmful intents, a misrepresentation of a person or event, even minor, can have an effect on their personal and professional lives. And at worst, could lead to repercussions for that producer and even Hōʻike, depending on what has happened. And so avoiding knowing how to avoid bias, which even with knowing the techniques and knowing everything is impossible to 100% avoid, but at least knowing being aware of how it can happen and how you can avoid it can help creators can be more safe, creating more content. So my target audience, it does consist of anyone interested in creating and sharing their own stories through the video medium, but more specifically, it is going to be the producers at Hōʻike because they're the ones that are, of course, um, creating their videos there, editing their videos there, and being part of that community. It's also going to be hobbyist filmmakers, and this is part of the producers at Hōʻike bundle. I mean, like group, is that there are producers at Hōʻike who are new to the industry. There's college students just starting out. There are just people doing this for a hobby, and there's also professionals. And both of them will benefit from knowing the cognitive and psychological effects editing can have on people, both as learning something new or refreshing or even um, practicing. So my proposed solution is that locals in Kauai want their stories to be told and understood by the community. They might also want to educate and showcase the unique aspects of Kauai life. Editing can be made sure to help be used to help make sure that sure that the intention of that producer is understood. As I said, editing can be used to make sure that like whatever the producer wants the audience to feel and focus on is the thing that the audience will feel and focus on. Um, so this would be my preparation and process. For the prep phase, I would, and this is all with the permission of a producer or anyone who wants to volunteer to work with me. But first, if that producer already has videos on Hōʻike, or, and even that, there's another way, would first be to analyze their old videos, determine what their goal was, and then plan accordingly for the next video created. Then during production phase, I would edit the video while also explaining the process and making sure it aligns with that producer's vision. And then post would that we would be receiving outside feedback, mostly from the staff at Hōʻike, but also outside if the producer feels comfortable, and then edit further as needed to make sure that the message is clear. And then this process will be repeated with the new producer or the same producer if they want to continue working with me. So going further into it, for pre-production, I would start by watching old videos producer has made and letting them know what I perceive the message and emotional intent to be, along with listening to what the planned intent and message was from them, because there is a chance that what I perceived was not what they planned, or I did perceive what they planned, but it wasn't exactly in the way they wanted. And of course, if they don't have the video already, like they are brand new, fresh, I would use this time to basically interview them and determine what the goal of their video is, why they're creating it, and what they want from it. Because every video is going to have a different goal in mind. And then during the production phase is I will, of course, edit the video with them. And as I'm doing it, I will explain why any decision is being made in the editing process, while sending feedback. And this is so that, as mentioned before, I'm not just editing the video for them, I'm also teaching them, or not even teaching about editing, like this is not about editing. This is about like letting them know why these methods are used, how they would benefit the audience, and of course, like the pros and cons of them. Because as mentioned in my essay, each editing method has a distinct feel, and there's no correct way to edit. It all depends on the end goal of the producer and the intent of the film. For example, on Hōʻike, I looked at a few videos, and there was one video that was it is about not about, but it is a wood carver who through a series of videos um, carves a piece while also explaining like the history of carving and his techniques. And for me, something like that would not work with a fast-paced editing cut excitement because you want the audience, or at least I assume was that you want the audience to focus on the craftsmanship and the story he's telling. So having a longer cuts, a smoother transition between scenes, and taking advantage of that more relaxed storytelling style is imperative. At the same time, on the other end of that, there is also a video um, on the site about a story of a fairly new music, and that one, the focus is more on the story and the ballet dancing of the performer, and so that one would require like a different type of editing style. My point is like different producers and different goals will require different methods, and there is no universal correct answer. But then for the post and future is because, and this is because it would just be me and the editor working, I mean, me and the producer working on the video together. And of course, if you work on something by yourself for a long time, you will you will lose track of what might you might not have noticed, like somebody else would notice. And that's why I say that like we should also, before the video is put out, like while still being edited, is showing it to friends, family, strangers, if they're just comfortable with that. And asking them like, hey, can you tell us like how this make you feel? What stood out to you? And that way, if the intended goal, like the intended audience goal is not met, then I can work with the producer to see like where anything went wrong, where things can be improved on. And then after that, we can of course make the video on Hōʻike Live. And of course with Hōʻike, it is both on the content, there's videos published. There's also videos that are just made live on the channel. And I'm hoping that with this process, I will repeat it during my entire internship. There are multiple producers there. There's different types of creators, and I am willing to help multiple producers at a time, within reason. Like I want to make sure that I'm actually able to help all of them and not wear myself out. So, are there any questions?